Welcome back, everybody. I'm really excited about today's interview. We've got Jonathan Mast here for the tip AI, and Jonathan is very well known across the AI industry and has a rather large Facebook group of his own. So I'm looking forward to discussing AI and what's to come in 2025 with him today. Welcome, Jonathan. Great to have you here, man.
Well, Jack, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
It's awesome, man. I know we've been ready to set this up for a little while and we finally got it going. So I'm really, really pleased to have you here and to hear everything that you're doing with AI this year.
No, I'm excited. There's been so many changes. I mean, as you know, it's like, my goodness, I think we've had a couple years worth of advancements just in the last 3 months.
Totally. So, golden question. Have you been one of the lucky ones that has access to Manus?
I think I'd love to say there was something about it more than anything else. It was probably just making a bunch of requests until they approved one of them and getting in from there. I definitely had that FOMO going for a bit as Jeff and others got in before I did, and I'm like, "How did you get access?" But yeah, that took about a day, and then got in and went from there.
I have to say, I'm still waiting. I've used three different email addresses so far, and I'm considering putting a fourth that just says, all of my AI friends are in there and I feel left out. Please let me be in if that works.
I think I've tried it 4 times over about 2 or 3 days, and then all of a sudden I probably shouldn't admit it live, but I actually have 2 accounts now because I used a couple different email addresses, and I got access under both of them.
Well, you want to be careful to not give your address away or too many details because you might have someone knocking on your door for that password. Not me because I'm in Vietnam, so it's too far.
No, we're good, we're good. So while and now that they moved to a paid model to get much done, that doesn't necessarily, help out as much as it did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true. And I did hope that when the paid model came out that it might mean that everybody gets access, but it seems you still have to be one of the lucky ones with the code. So I'll wait a few more days. I'll have to let you know if I manage to get in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about how you came across the AI consulting program with Jeff, because I know you have your own large Facebook community, which I think's at 200,000 members or so now, right?
Yeah, we're about 370,000 people right now. So yeah, we keep growing and keep getting engagement. Jeff and I met at an event that we were at, and based on that, we were chatting, and I'm like, "This sounds really cool. What do I need to do to get in?" I love to learn new things, and I'm one of those people that, I believe that the pie is large enough and continues to expand. So, even though some people are like, "Well, aren't you and Jeff competitors?" I'm like, "No, not really. I mean, we both are into AI a lot, but no, I don't. I just don't look at it that way. We have different things we do, different focuses, and I thought I could learn from Jeff, so we hopped on in, and was a great program.
I like that. And I think what you said there is key because we're all in the industry, so to speak. It seems like there are a lot of people in AI that know what's going on with it, but in actual fact, it's still very new.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as you know, there are a whole lot of people out there that say they know what's going on, and there's very few people when you end up talking to them. And I don't mean very few, but I mean literally I could probably say a few dozen people that I know that I actually really think know what's going on with AI, as opposed to the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people out there that are, claiming they know everything. And my favorites, and I'm sure you see this too, are people that come into my group and let me know they're going to be an AI consultant, and they ask for a prompt in order to become an AI consultant. And I'm like, I think we're getting the cart out of the horse here.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people fear that you could just come in, put a prompt in, and then suddenly be an expert in a certain area, but that's absolutely not the case.
So true. So true.
Yeah, even someone who knows how to prompt as well as you do, or I do, or Jeff does. I mean, it's never going to be possible to take over 10 years of expertise in social media marketing or email marketing or whatever it is that your industry, that you come from.
Exactly. AI amplifies skill and experience. And if you don't have any skill or experience, it doesn't do a whole lot. I always compare it to multiplication. We learned in school, anything times zero is still zero. So if you don't have, and now everybody's got a little bit of a skill and experience, but if I take point 0.1 times a 10, I'm at a 1. And if Jeff's already at a 7, he's got me beat by sevenfold. And then if he uses AI, he's got me beat by 70-fold. So it's yeah, AI is not that magic button, that easy button that everybody thinks it is. I think it's an easier button. It's amazing. I love it, but I still talk probably like you guys do. I talk to people on a regular basis that are like, "Well, how can I have it run my business for me?" Or how can I, and it's like it can't do that yet. May not ever be able to do that.
Yeah, this is it. And I think it's the same with a lot of technology. When things come out, people have a view of how quickly it's going to expand and take over all of these different things and become autonomous. But it's like we've had automation in messages for outreach for a long time, for example, but it doesn't mean that you should just set it on autopilot and you're going to get great results.
Yeah, I mean, we all get those messages and none of us respond to them. So we know that doesn't work, on a pure automatic mode.
This is it. But coming up with a hybrid approach where you can kind of use both absolutely does make sense.
100%.
So, being in the community, what have you found as the biggest benefit to you as someone who already knows quite a lot about AI? And how would that translate to someone who wants to become an AI consultant? Do you think that they need some experience already, or would you recommend they can just jump in and get started?
Well, I actually really thought that the program is excellent. I thought it was great. There were, definitely things I knew from being in the industry, but there were a lot of things that I didn't know, different perspectives, different takes. And I like the way it's laid out because, you know, being that I knew some of it, I could move to the parts that I wanted to. It was great. It was kind of self-paced. I could do what I wanted. But I also saw that very clearly there was great layout in there. If you're not already an expert and let's say you have that dream, I want to be an AI consultant. I think it's a great program to get involved in because you can start at square one and build your knowledge base up in that until you get to that certification where you've went through and you've got everything figured out. I may have been able to go through that a little faster than some only because I'm in the industry. I've got a lot of experience, but I still learned a ton from that program and it was absolutely worth every penny invested in it. Absolutely worth every minute that I invested in it because of the value. And then that doesn't even count the community value that's still paying on an ongoing basis from being part of that consultant community.
Yeah, I think that's the key bit to it as well. It's not just what you get in the program, which is a lot of depth and information. It's the factor around all the other people that are experimenting with AI every day in all of their different business functions, because we have marketing people, we have sales people, we have various other functions in there, all testing it for their own uses. And that means that you kind of progress quicker. Because I know for you, for example, I saw you posting about AI images, and that routes. So I learned some stuff from you and from your community, and I was like, right, I'm going to go and figure this out. And I wouldn't have looked into that had I have not been in the community with other people testing the things that they're testing. Because let's face it, there's so many things coming out every day. It's almost impossible to keep up with AI on your own.
There is. Well, and again, everybody has different things that resonate with them, and we can learn from each other. We don't all need to necessarily blaze that trail on our own. We can find the areas that we're interested in, and that's how I really looked at the consultancy course and the program. It was a way to expedite my learning exponentially, and it did. It literally catapulted me forward and not only taught me things that I didn't necessarily know, but gave me ideas, and then being part of the community was massively valuable and still is massively valuable because again, everybody has a different filter, a different way they look at things. And so the way that another member may pull something out or the way that Jeff shares something may be a different twist on what I'd thought of before. And that adds tons of value.
Yeah, it's bouncing those ideas back and forth that really brings even better results for everybody at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So, something you said I wanted to come back to, but I didn't want to cut you off. I had another thought come into my head as we were doing it, as so often happens when you're talking about AI, is about getting to that stage where AI can do everything and you're sort of in the position where you plug your business in, you let a load of AI agents take over. How much closer a step to that is Manus, for example, in your experience?
I think it's from where we're at, I think it's a massive step. From where we're gonna end up, I think we're gonna look back in a year and go, "Wow, I can't believe we were so impressed with that." In other words, I think because we don't have it, now it's amazing to us, and then to think about what it can do that we can't do with the base Chat GPT or all that. At the same point in time, I don't see it replacing Chat GPT because it's a different function that it serves and a different way that it runs. Hugely valuable. I've used it a number of times and continue to use it on a regular basis, but it has its shortcomings like anything else. So I think the part about Manus, which is interesting, is it's the first time that I've been able to test an agent that I could give an objective to, and it logicked its way through the tasks necessary in order to achieve the objective. And I know some people go, well, ChatGPT can do that. Well, not really. And if it can, it may be able to give you the plan, but it can't then go execute on that autonomously and then come back to you as needed when it runs into a roadblock. I've been able to watch Manus say, okay, in order to achieve this objective, here's the 72 things we need to go through. And it gets down to step 34, and I'm picking numbers out of the air, but it gets a third of the way through and it runs into a roadblock. and I've literally watched it back up, reevaluate the situation and the roadblock it ran into, and say, okay, based upon this, now we should probably do this instead. That's stuff that, again, logically makes sense, and I think a lot of people think AI can do, but we really haven't seen that demonstrated until Manus came out, and I think that's what's super exciting. Again, I think a year from now, though, Jack, I think we're going to look back and go, "Man, I can't believe we got so excited about Manus," because I think a year from now we're going to continue to see just exponential growth in that area, and we are going to get to a point where we can basically go and say, I need to do the following and let it go and run that, ask us a couple questions that it needs for maybe logins or whatever. And it's going to be able to come back and give us information, much like a great assistant could do today.
Yeah, I see. So it's almost like if we look back now at ChatGPT 3.5 when it first came out and we'd see the capabilities of it before we had image generation, before we had any of this other stuff. And we were blown away. And of course we should have been because at the time it was crazy. But now, if you had to go and use 3.5 today, you would find it very limited.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think that's where we're going to be with this as well. And again, as we talked kind of up front, the pace of change, as you know, in AI is just astronomical. Whatever we thought was fast in the past is literally a turtle in comparison to this racing hound that we now have.
Yeah, yeah, and that's gonna be the next step. I guess the other way to look at it is like ChatGPT before Manus and these other programs was kind of like having an entry level assistant. You have to be very specific about a certain part of the task, and it will go away and do it, and it comes back, and you're like, well, hold on, that's not quite what I meant. Go back and do this, and you can get great results, but you're kind of pushing it at every step of the way and micromanaging. Whereas with Manus and where we're at now, it's like a higher level junior project manager where it will figure something out itself as long as you instruct it well.
Well, I was gonna say the key we need to remember is it's also a lot like any employee. If we and I don't like it when some companies go, "Hey, have your own AI employee," because they don't necessarily think autonomously. But it's like having an employee that you need to micromanage because you need to continue to give it direction. But the good news is it Manus doesn't call in sick. Manus doesn't have an attitude. Manus, none of those things that we normally run into. And so, you just get to go and proceed down your path, but like any employee, it still needs to be managed. We can't just go, okay, Manish, you're now my sales team, and I want you to take care of everything and wait for money to come in. It's never going to work like that.
Totally. Yeah, no, I agree with that entirely. So, if you're a business owner now and maybe you've not got into AI any more than a very surface level of putting in a few queries, and you might be sitting thinking, I don't really see what the big fuss about it is. I understand that, it does these cool things, but I've never really got anywhere with it. What would you recommend these people do now, these business owners, to keep in touch? And how would you kind of get rid of their fears that they're going to be replaced? What should they do?
Well, I would not recommend you start with Manus because it's a much more complex process. I'd recommend you just start with whatever tool you have, whether that's ChatGPT, whether it's Microsoft 360 if you're a Microsoft shop, whether it's Google Gemini if you've got a Google shop. 3 months ago, I would have not said the Google part, but their latest stuff they've just released is really quality stuff. It's like, wow, what happened? Google finally got together. So I'd say start by using the tools that you have available to you and don't be on that quest for the ever elusive perfect AI tool. One, it doesn't exist. And two, if it did, it would simply be replaced by another tool in the next 30 days. So use the tools you have at your availability and kind of following the old 80-20 principle. Let's use the tools we have to make an 80% improvement from where we're at right now. Let's not try to get to 100% because that takes way too much time, way too much work. And candidly, that means we're not taking advantage of the 80% gains that we could get today because we spend too much time focusing on how to get to 100%. Focus on getting those 80% gains today, leap ahead of your competition, get familiar with how things work. And like anything else, I mean, I remember it's I'm going to date myself, but I remember literally sitting in a high school class and a teacher coming in and talking about how someday we were going to have devices that allowed us to talk when we were in our cars and everywhere else. And I remember thinking, why in the world would I want a phone when I'm driving down the road? Didn't make any sense to me until I got one and started going, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing." And then, of course, that was in the days we just had phones. Now we've got smartphones and that can do so much more. And I think the same way that we've become accustomed to using those technologies, as we start using AI technology, you're going to find the same thing's going to happen. You're going to start realizing there's new opportunities you hadn't thought of. And like, hey, I used chat to do this the other day. I wonder if it could do this. Oh my goodness, it can. And then as you progress and get better, as these autonomous agents like Manus come out and start doing more, then when it makes sense, you'll know it's the right time to go there. But don't try to go there and hit everything. It's like a baseball player that wants to hit a home run every time they get to bat. That never happens, and generally they strike out a whole lot in the process.
Right, yeah, so if you're shiny object syndrome or you're getting that FOMO when you see those advertisements with 70 different AI tools for all their different jobs, don't stress. Start with ChatGPT, start with whatever's available, and just master something simple because the power in there is probably enough for most people to get 80% of the value. I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it is, and certainly as we've worked with people, again, then you're winning because you're demonstrating quick wins with inside your organization. You're going to get people excited. And keep in mind, as business leaders, one of the best things we can do isn't use it ourselves, although that's amazing, but it's getting our team to start using it. Because if we can get those leverages of economies of scale and the time savings that AI can bring by enabling our team to use it effectively, now all of a sudden we're really changing the world. Because if I've even got a small company with 5 or 10 employees, if I can save each of them 30 to 60 minutes a day, and I add that adds up to literally another full-time employee before you can blink at no cost. Plus happier employees because they're not dealing with those jobs that stress them out anymore. They're using AI to help work through that. It's the same way that, yeah, we used to have huge ledgers that people kept all the numbers in before we had spreadsheets for all the accounting. And those ledger books, I remember they were big and they were heavy. And it was just as I was getting in the workforce, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those are miserable. Well, now we've got spreadsheets, and no one in the world in their right mind would ever go back to keeping everything in a manual ledger and trying to run all the numbers across because it simply took too much time. That same thing I think applies with AI.
Yeah, I agree, but you still might have the odd person who prints out their emails, but they are becoming less and less often as time goes on, and I think it's the same with AI. One of the things that resonated with me there is what you said about people adopting it and adopting things in the past like that. It was the same with online shopping. Everyone's like, "Who's gonna order things online?" And look where we are today. So I totally agree. I think that's the phone analogy is spot on. Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for sharing all of that with us and with everybody that's on this newsletter. If people want to keep in touch with you, where's the best place? Your Facebook group? I know you're on Facebook a lot. What's the best
Yeah,
place to find you?
the best place is just to remember my name. It's Jonathan Mast, M-A-S-T, and go to jonathanmast.com/Linktree. Got tons of free resources there. If you don't remember that, just remember I'm the guy with the white beard in AI. And if you Google white beard AI, you'll end up on my site as well.
Yeah, and you probably come across Jonathan already if you've ever heard anything about AI because the man is a legend. So it's great to have him here today. Thank you very much for joining us, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.